Greetings. Welcome to Family Lifestyles. I'm Lynn, Blankenship, the Metcalfe County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences Education, and I'm joined today by Mrs. Janey Cline, who is the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent in Hart County. Janey, what did you bring to share with us today?
We're going to talk about apples.
Excellent.
Fall is on its way.
Yes, it is.
Getting a little bit cooler, and we are looking forward to it. It's been really hot, and so when we think of fall, we often think of apples.
Oh, yeah.
And even though they're available year-round, we still think of apples in the fall.
No doubt.
And the recipes and the cider and all of that. So we want to start out talking about how apples form on the trees.
Excellent.
Yes. The wintertime, of course, the trees are at rest,
Yes.
and they're all bare. And then in the spring, they have those buds on the trees that you have the leaves come from and the flowers come from. And it's amazing that flower produces an apple to look like this.
Yeah.
But they need a very secret ingredient, and that's the honeybee.
Yes.
And the honeybee will pollinate the tree, and it will start to grow. The apple will start to grow, and they will grow all throughout the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the fall, about 2 weeks before harvest, the food supply is withdrawn from that tree and from that apple, and the apple begins to get sweet. That lovely taste we all love,
Yes.
that sweetness of the apple. Well, some of us do. Some of us like that tart. So we're going to also talk about, just a few minutes, about the different varieties of apples. We have the Gala apple, and it is a very good apple to cook with.
Mm-hmm.
I love to have fried apples and that type thing.
Yes.
Your pies and that type.
We have a local orchard, very small, in Metcalfe County that grows Gala apples. That's their primary
Really?
crop. It's Valley
Okay.
View Orchards, Ken Childers.
Okay.
And he produces lovely Gala apples, sells a lot of them to the school system for our kids to eat. And so we can get them locally and also at Jackson's.
Yes.
And I'm
I
sure
think there's
others.
another orchard down around the Smiths Grove area. I think
Yes,
there's one
I
down
can't remember
there.
the name of it, but
I can't either right off the top of my head. I think it's Miles maybe.
let me tell you, when
But-
you buy them locally and they haven't been cold stored, you have never had a better apple in your life. They're
That was
so
what I was going to
wonderful.
say. Buying the apples locally makes them taste so much better.
Way better.
Apples store well, but still that fresh off the tree is just, it's out of this world.
There's so much juice, and it's just
Yes,
so
yes,
wonderful.
it is. Then we have the very tart apple that the Granny Smith that a lot of people like. I'm not
Pie
fond.
apple. I like to make pies out of those.
Yes. They will make a great pie.
They hold up really well to cooking.
Yes, and that's one thing that you want to do whenever you're choosing your apple, is if you're making a pie or you're making them for, your baked apple and that type thing, you want an apple that's going to hold its shape.
Absolutely, especially if you're going to can it.
Yes. If you get an apple that's a little bit, gets kind of mushy
Softer
or
texture.
soft you need to use those for applesauce.
Absolutely.
Or you can make them in a cake or something
Or
like
cider,
that.
or put in a cake.
Yes. But you want something
Apple
that's
butter.
going to hold, apple butter would be great. You want something that's going to hold its shape if you're going to use it for your pies and that type thing. Then we have the Red Delicious apple. And this is a very crisp apple. My children and grandchildren love a good crisp apple. I am more of a fond of the Gala, or, that's kind of soft. But they I guess that may be my age. But
Well, they may have gotten trained. They serve these a lot in the school system.
They do.
And, you see them frequently.
They do.
So kids get a lot of those.
Yeah. So, but they are a very crisp, and they have
sweet.
kind of a sweet taste to them. Not as much as some of them you would think that have, but they are a very crisp, sweet apple. And then this right here is a Pink Delicious. Pink Delicious.
Pink Delicious.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. It was kind of an unusual apple that I saw at the grocery yesterday. And I think it's more of an apple that you would just eat. I think you could use it in cooking and that type of thing.
It must be a cross between the Pink Lady and the Delicious.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Nice.
And so, I think you could cook with it, like I said, but
looks like it would be
it's a great apple to eat.
So it's an eating. Okay.
Yes, it's an eating apple. And some of the apples that are crossed, like you were saying, they're a little more expensive. And the reason for that is because they are crossed between different, apple trees, and they're grafted and that kind of thing. So it's a little more trouble, and cost a little bit more. And some of them are very kind of finicky, whenever you handle them and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know the Honey Crisp is one that is very expensive. Sometimes it can be like 3 or 4 times the price of a regular apple.
Very good.
But yes, so if you want a treat, that's the way to go.
Yes,
is the Honey Crisp. But I was actually reading some information on them this morning, and it was saying the reason they're so expensive is because they have to be hand picked, and the stems have to be pulled out of the apple.
I didn't know that.
By hand.
Interesting.
And so because the flesh on them is so
it bruises easily.
Tender, yes, and it bruises very easy. So they have to be very, very careful when they're harvesting it. So that adds to the cost of what the apple will, be when it gets to the grocery store.
That makes sense.
But you want to, when you're selecting the apple, you want to be careful that you don't get an apple that's bruised, because you bring it home and you put it in a basket with a group of your apples, and as the old saying goes, one apple can rot the whole basket.
Totally true.
So you want to be sure that they are good and firm, there's no bruising on there, and that they're... you bring them home, you can put them in the refrigerator. They keep a little longer in the refrigerator, although I think they keep, quite a while on the counter.
Especially if they're fresh from the orchard.
Yes,
because they haven't been refrigerated yet.
Right,
and so
exactly.
you can take them home and put them on the counter. But when you take an apple that's been cold stored and shipped from Washington State or somewhere, and it's already been cold stored, and you keep it out on your counter, they don't last quite as long.
They don't.
You're better
last,
keeping them refrigerated if
they don't last near as long.
If they were
of course, if you've got a bunch of grandchildren coming in like I do,
they're going to eat them
pretty
up
quick.
Absolutely.
So if you can store them on the counter, but they are better if you store them in the refrigerator. So I think we're going to come back and talk about some recipes here in a minute.
That sounds good. What recipe? Is it a plated up recipe?
It is a plated up Kentucky Proud recipe that we're going to do.
I'm excited.
Very berry salsa.
I can smell it from here. It smells wonderful.
Yeah. But we'll have to talk about how to chop some apples.
Okay. That sounds great. So we'll be back with the next segment for the recipe. Yum.
Yes, can't wait.
Everyone deserves a decent place to live.
Everyone.
Todos. Decent shelter is something we all need to thrive. When a future homeowner partners with Habitat for Humanity to build or improve a home,
Build.
they build a better future for themselves and their families.
For my family.
For my family.
For my family.
Para mi familia.
Your support empowers a family to help themselves.
Help.
Assiste.
Your support helps another family in your community or around the world achieve strength, stability, self-reliance.
Strength.
Fuerza.
With a little help, we all have the potential to stand on our own.
Potential.
Through shelter, we empower. Visit Habitat.org to provide help to families like these today.
Welcome back to Family Lifestyles, and we're back with Mrs. Janey Cline, and we have a wonderful recipe to learn about.
Yes, we're going to learn about very berry salsa.
One of my favorites.
Yes. It has 4 cups of apples in it, so it has several apples in the recipe. And we have some of them chopped, but I kind of wanted to talk about a quick way that you can chop apples.
Sure.
A lot of people will just simply cut the apple in half or maybe quarter the apple and then, dig the seed out and that type thing. But you can just simply cut around the edge of the apple, of the core, and you'll still have a core left in the middle that is square. And, some people might think that's wasteful, but it's not. You're not wasting that much, and it's very, very quick. And so then I'm just going to simply go down through, and we're make about 3 slices, and then we're going to dice them up.
And so you want to make sure when you're cutting up apples that you don't want to, for a recipe, you don't want to do it too far in advance because they do tend to brown. But if you do need to make something in advance, you can prevent the browning to some extent by using an acid like lemon juice or lime juice or something like that. And that'll keep them from turning brown.
Yes. The pectin also will help them from getting brown.
Yes. That is another
I kind of like to use the lemon juice is great, and lime. You can use lime juice, but I kind of don't like the flavor of that. You can also use orange juice.
Yes, anything with a fair amount of acid in it. Sprite will even work.
Oh, I didn't know about that
Yeah,
trick.
because it has citric acid in it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it.
So, if you don't have lemon juice and you happen to have a Sprite in the fridge, I'm not a soda drinker, but I learned this from a coworker, and it actually does work.
Wow.
So in a pinch, if you have a Sprite, or you can stop at a quick stop and pick one up, and it'll work. Yeah,
that's a great idea. I think that would kind of give it a sweeter taste, too.
It would, and you don't need to use very much, so.
You're right. But whenever you're canning, you're also going to need some type of acid with your apples to keep them from browning.
Absolutely.
Pretty much any time you're, preparing an apple, you will, except for like if you were baking it in a cake or that type thing. So, okay, I have my apple all chopped up, and I'm going to put it in my bowl. We have about 4 cups in here now.
So from like a medium-sized apple, you're going to get about an apple that's this size. You're going to get about a cup when you dice it up. And you're going to get slightly more than a cup from an apple that's this size. And most apples these days that we see in the stores, unless you're getting a bag of the apples, they tend to be smaller, but if you're getting them from the bin,
actually this came from a bag and this came from the bin.
Yeah, the bins are a little. That's why they're a little more expensive because they're a higher grade, and then the lower grade ones they put. And these are actually better for kids because this is too much of a serving. This is
an apple has about 75. A medium-sized apple has about 75 calories.
High in sugar, though.
Yes, very high in sugar.
A lot of carbohydrate.
Yes.
But good fiber.
Yes.
Especially you want to eat the skin.
Has about 20% of your fiber. The skin has your vitamin C and your beta carotene in it. It does.
Both important things.
Yes. So to add to our recipe, we're going to add some blackberries, and I have washed these just as I was right before I came, because you don't want to wash your berries and put them in the refrigerator. They'll ruin a lot faster. So you want to wait till the very last minute to wash all your berries. Also, you want to be very careful when you're washing your berries, not to just like
bruise.
Yes, to bruise them by just putting them underneath the faucet, and letting that hard water get on them. You want to be very gentle with them.
Yeah, you can put them in a sieve and plunge them into cold water.
Right, that's the way I like to wash them. But if you really just like to put them under the faucet so that you have running water, just put it on very slow, very, very low. But we have a cup of the berries, and then we have a cup of raspberries. And once again, raspberries are the same way. You want to be careful with washing them and to wash them right at the last minute. Then we have blueberries. And they are just whole. The rest of my berries have been halved, but these are just whole, so we'll pour those in.
So the blue from the blueberries is from the anthocyanins, which are the plant chemicals that are cancer preventative, which is one of the main reasons why blue and purple berries and fruits are so good, because they really do have excellent anti-cancer
And we were talking about the growing locally. We have a lot of blueberry growers.
Yes, we do.
Especially in Metcalfe County.
Yeah, Metcalfe County is unofficially the blueberry capital of Kentucky.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I knew you had a lot, but I didn't realize you had that many.
Quite a few.
We went up to Maine just this past summer.
Oh, I love the wild blueberries.
Yes, and they had the wild blueberries. And they were just so delicious. The blueberry ice cream, the blueberry, they had blueberry everything.
Absolutely.
Anything you could think of to make, they had blueberry in it.
I grew up there.
Oh, so, did you?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I grew up in Connecticut, but we had relatives in Maine, so I spent a lot of time in Maine and loved those wild blueberries.
Yeah, so they're well known for their blueberries up there. But then we have a cup of the strawberries as well. So as you can see, we are very colorful. And let me grab it. Sorry about that.
We always talk about eating across the rainbow with the fruits and vegetables so that you can get a wide variety of those really healthy plant chemicals. And that's one way that you can kind of keep track of it is a variety of color and kind of changing it up.
Right.
So instead of always eating strawberries, sometimes eat blueberries, sometimes eat blackberries, and then you get a variety of those healthy plant chemicals.
So as you can see, we are really getting a pretty looking salad here, but it's going to be a salsa instead of a salad, sorry. But you could use this just as a salad like this on your Thanksgiving table or just any time really. But
breakfast, a holiday breakfast.
Yes, a holiday breakfast. Oh, that would be delicious.
Wonderful.
But we need to add a couple more things. We're going to add a tablespoon of fruit preserves, and I have strawberries. You could can your own, and that would really make it more fresh tasting. But I have decided to purchase it, and I decided to purchase a sugar-free.
Okay.
Just because, you know, you have a lot of sugar within the fruit, and so I feel like just a sugar-free preserves would help out a lot on your sugar content. And then we also have just a half a teaspoon of sugar, just regular white sugar. And then we have a half a teaspoon of brown sugar. So we have quite a bit of sugar in there, but you're still looking at a pretty healthy recipe. And then you're just going to kind of toss that up and get it all mixed in there real good. This is a great recipe to put on maybe a piece of toast in the morning, or you could just put it in a side dish and eat it with your biscuit and gravy and all that.
Yeah, I love fruit at breakfast.
I do too. I just think it's kind of makes you feel fresh, and
I can't tell you how good it smells as well. The smells coming out of the bowl are just
Yeah.
so fresh and delicious.
yeah, it just makes you hungry, doesn't it?
Yes.
But you want to be very careful as you're tossing this, because you're, as we were talking about the raspberries and the blueberries, you know, they mash really, really easy. And so, you know, it's going to discolor it if you mix too much. So you just kind of want to mix it just a little bit and very gently as you're turning, not, you know, like a real heavy mixing.
And this recipe, I believe, can be cut in half if you want a smaller amount as well.
Yes, it could, because that's quite a bit, unless you were serving it for a Thanksgiving meal or something like that. That's a lot of fruit there, you know, to try to eat up before, you know, it ruins. So.
Yeah, that's a really excellent recipe. It's one of the older plated up recipes, and I really thank you for bringing it and showing it to us today, because it's very timely with the apple crop coming in. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And we'll be back to talk a little bit more about apple nutrition.
Okay.
Us. It's what this country is made of. A helping hand, a shoulder to lean on. Different voices.
Hello.
One sacred bond. But right now, that bond is fraying. Where do we find common ground? How do we get back to us? The why fills the gaps and bridges our divides. Now, more than ever, the why needs your support. Because where there's a why, there's an us. For a better us, support your local why today.
And we're back for our final segment with Mrs. Janey Cline, and we're going to learn even more about apples.
Yes. We're going to talk about some ways to use apples.
Okay.
We often think of the apple pie.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we think about, or the fried apple pies, you know. But there are so many ways to use apples. One of my favorite things to do at Thanksgiving is to put an apple in with my turkey. It kind of makes it moist. And you can put it in with a lot of different kind of meats, and it just makes that moist meat, you know, just kind of lets it soak up. And,
Pork also, like
yes,
pork chops and applesauce.
Yes, yes.
So good.
So you've got your protein there, you know, that you're using it with, but you can also use an apple and the different forms of apples in many ways. I love to use applesauce, just a container like this full of applesauce, and put it in my cakes to substitute for the oil. I don't even use oil in any of my cakes now. I use the applesauce all the time.
It works great in quick breads and muffins and cakes.
Yes, yes. I haven't had a lot of success in substituting it in brownies, but
Oh, okay.
any, like you were talking, the muffins, the quick breads, any of that kind of thing, you can substitute it. And it cuts down on your calories and your fat.
Absolutely.
Because if you use the applesauce.
And adds in some more fiber.
Yes, and adds in fiber. So it's kind of a win-win situation because I feel like, too, it's a lot more moist whenever I put the applesauce in. So you can also, you know, with your kids, you can do caramel apples. It's just simply just melting the caramel either in a double broiler or the microwave, taking your apples, washing them, putting a stick in, and just dipping it in there. And it's a lot of fun for the kids. Anything they can make, it really helps them to want to eat that product that they have made.
And opening all those caramels is a great fine motor activity.
Yes, fine motor skills. Yes, that is a great activity. I also have today a yogurt and cinnamon dip. Sometimes, I mean, our children most of the time like apples. It's just kind of a fruit that they really like. But it also is fun for them to dip. And this is very healthy. It's just a cup of vanilla yogurt. And then you have a teaspoonful of cinnamon. And this is something they can help you with as well to make.
Yeah, I'd say they could totally make this.
Yeah.
No problem.
And just the
Most
teaspoon
kids.
of cinnamon, stir it up, and it gives them that good, just cinnamon flavor. You know, the fall, thinking about the fall, I think of cinnamon all the time. That's my thing.
You know, this would be a great dip for adults as well, especially if you have diabetes and you're trying to reduce your sugar intake, but the cinnamon can help to control blood sugar spikes. So something like this is a very healthy dip to use,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
Or even as a dressing on a fruit salad. Like
Yeah,
if you were to
I hadn't
use
thought of
that, you
that,
could put a little
yes.
dollop of that on top. It would be wonderful.
Right. Yes. So we just have it mixed together, and it's just the cinnamon and the vanilla yogurt.
It's pretty too.
Yes, it is. It's very pretty. And you can just put that in a little bowl and serve it to your children. You can also do the traditional marshmallow cream and the cream cheese. Stir that together, and you could add some food coloring to make it different colors, or you could use the strawberry cream cheese to make it a different color.
Nut butters are really good on apples too.
Yes, yes.
Any kind of nut butter.
Yes, any of that
Makes
kind
a
of
great
thing.
snack.
Yes. I actually got hooked on that a few years ago and couldn't get off of it. But it's just so delicious. When it first
It
came
really
out,
is so good.
it was really good, really good. You can also use it in cookies. I haven't used it in cookies a lot, but I know the applesauce is great in cookies.
Yeah.
So, and then you can use it in salads, or also you can make cider out of it. And I think you are an expert in making cider.
Well, I grew up making cider. We had a little mini apple orchard in the backyard with several different varieties of apples, and the best cider comes from using more than one variety of apple, in my opinion. You get more flavor, more complex flavor. And so my job growing up from a very young age was to go out every morning and pick the drops up off the ground. So overnight, especially if it's windy or there's rain or anything, apples just tend to drop.
Right.
And so I would go out and collect all the drops, and when we got 3 5-gallon buckets, then my dad had a small cider press that he made, and it would be time to grind the apples. You use the whole apple and then put it through and press it, and press the juice out. So it's a really nutritious raw juice. It is not recommended for infants because it's not pasteurized, however. So some of the apple cider that you buy in the store, they do process it and pasteurize it. But if you make it yourself, it's not recommended for infants. But it's so good.
Sounds delicious, and I can just...
It just captures the freshness
Yes,
of that juice.
that was what I was going to say.
So
If
wonderful.
you were picking your apples up from outside, I know I love to go to the orchard and get the frozen apple cider, or just this is the regular apple cider because it does have a fresher taste to it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yes. So those are a lot of different kind of things we can do with apples. But I also wanted to mention that the apples came from the crab apple, which is a wild apple.
Yeah.
And there are still some here in Kentucky. I know a friend of mine has the crab apple tree, and so she gathers them and makes different things out of them. I haven't actually...
You can make jelly. It's really pretty, too.
Yeah.
The color.
And speaking of jelly, to preserve apples is really fun, and we have a lot of things at the Extension office, a lot of recipes and a lot of classes and that type thing that you can join in and make different recipes with jellies and jams and
apple butter.
Apple butter,
so good.
yes, yes. And also just to slice the apples and you know, can them. But you can also freeze the apples. And some people freeze them. I know my mother froze them just to cut the apple and just freeze it that way. But it is recommended that you do can it in syrup to keep it from turning.
Yes, and you can also make homemade applesauce and freeze that. It freezes very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be delicious. So if you're interested in joining a class or something, check with your extension office because they may be having some.
Yeah, this is the time of the year that these things are being planned.
Yes.
And if you want a class and you're not sure if they're going to offer one, get together with a couple friends who want it and go to your extension agent, and they may be willing to do it for you.
Yes. So we offer a lot of canning classes throughout the year, and maybe if my county's not offering it, maybe yours
That's
is,
right.
and I would know about it, so I could let you join in with them or something.
Yeah.
So apples are wonderful things throughout the whole year, so you want to be sure, and now's the perfect time to buy them at the orchards because they're a lot less expensive.
I want to give one more little tip. We have a little bit more time, but when you're making an apple pie, also, as I talked about different varieties making the best cider, using a crisp variety with another variety makes a very good pie. So instead of using all Granny Smith, throw maybe a Gala in there with it. And it kind of just gives it a little bit more of a variety of texture and flavor.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
A great tip.
So there's lots of different ways to utilize apples, and getting variety is good. And Janey, you've given us so many great tips today. I highly recommend trying that plated up recipe is fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait to dig in.
Yeah, I can. And the smell of the cinnamon coming off that dip is really making me hungry too.
Yes.
So I hope you're going to share this with us when we're done taping this segment today. And I really appreciate you joining us on Family Lifestyles and sharing your knowledge with everybody today.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn.
You're very welcome.